Right. Daniel, I am so excited to be talking with you about The Bloody Man. I watched it. It was fantastic. It was like it felt like Stranger Things vibe, and it like some of these classic horror tropes as well. And the cast was stellar in this. So great job on this movie.
Thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me on. Happy 7 years, I think your website said.
Yep, this will be 7 years this month.
So congrats on that.
Thank you. So where did the idea for The Bloody Man come about?
So when I was 8 or 9, I of course I was into everything that we all were back then, scary movies and comic books and cartoons and stuff like that. And I had written these stories called The Bloody Man. I'd forgotten about them over the years, and I came across them 2014. It was in a box in my parents' house. I was like, oh, that's funny. And I was reading them. My wife now, Cassie, she was there, and we were reading through them, and like it was late at night, and they were so terrible and so funny and ridiculous and misspelled and outrageous. We were like, we were in the middle of making a movie. We were like, the next movie we make, we should like make this movie, and we did. So yeah.
That's awesome that it came from something that you created as a kid, and just bringing it back all these years later. That's something special. I feel like that's something special, and I'm glad you got to share that, because you rarely get to see characters based on someone that someone created like years ago brought to life.
Yeah, it's definitely been a blessing, and it was really fun. We did a lot of rewriting and a lot of making it good, but we kind of centered the story around a kid in the 80s who was into all the same stuff as I was. So it's kind of a, I don't know, call it meta or something, but it definitely comes full circle.
I totally agree. I gotta tell you, man, you got an amazing cast in this movie, and especially Tuesday Night and Lisa Wilcox. They are actually part of my favorite installment of the Nightmare on Elm Street series.
Hey,
my favorite
yes,
is Remastered.
thank you.
That's
Yeah.
my favorite one out of them all. I don't care what anyone says. I was like, "What's your favorite Freddy movie?" I go, "The fourth one is always gonna be my favorite one."
Yeah, part 4 always been my favorite. It's just the one that I can watch over and over, and you just don't get tired of watching. It's awesome.
I know, and yeah, exactly. And plus, this is where you have like the final girl go from wallflower to warrior, and that's what I really liked about it. And Lisa pulled off here, and she does a great job here. Making the most of her screen time as the kid's mom, and then Tuesday Night as the stepmom. I think that just made it more like insane, like really connected. So I think that was a great job on that. What was it like working with them?
It was amazing, a dream come true. Because like I said, part 4 has always been my favorite, and to have them in a movie that I directed is, just like I said, a dream come true. I even back around that same time that I was writing these stories as a kid, 8 or 9. That's when part 4 came out, and and it's always been my favorite. But around 2010, I didn't know that conventions existed, and then I somehow came across a website or an ad for one that was kind of close to me in Louisville, Kentucky, and I saw that like several Nightmare on Elm Street cast members were going to be there, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I can meet them. Like that's a thing, and I was like, okay, let's go to this thing. So I went, and Lisa was one of the ones there. Tuesday wasn't there, but I met her, and I was like, and I had done, I had just started a career in commercials and video and stuff, but I'd always made like really crappy independent movies and home movies and stuff all my life, back to middle school. And so I was there and at this convention, and I met Lisa, and I was so inspired by meeting her and seeing all the other filmmakers and artists and things there, that I was like, one day I'm going to make a movie and she's going to be in it. Or that was at least a goal. And so, I set out on that journey. It's like I first need to make a movie that's actually like really good, and then step up to this. And I mean, here we are, 12 years later, and it's finally coming out. So that was the really long answer to your question. Short answer was, it was great.
That's awesome. And the young cast was great in this too. Sam and his brother, at odds. You had the little sibling rivalry. I mean, that was great too. What was it like for them? Did they get a little nervous as in terms of how to bring the roles, and did you help them out with,
Yeah, it was literally a pleasure to work with everybody. There might have been a few people, or a few instances where it was not fun, but like the kids, throughout the extras and even the main three kid cast members, absolutely amazing. They were super professional and troopers. We and there was a bit of nervousness sometimes, but Cassie and I worked with them, to get what we wanted in a particular scene out. But a lot of this stuff was filmed, at night. So we would, a lot of the night scenes, we would show up, right before, 6 or 7 p.m. and then film all night long until the sun came up, and then cut. So these kids, being able to do that and come and film all night long, and it was they were pretty hardcore, but and their parents, that were there and helping on set, and it was just just amazing. So I couldn't ask for a better cast.
That's awesome. And what I really liked about the film was it, in a way, it was slow building. Like the tension was rising up and up and up. Like, and then finally we don't really get anything like graphically violent until the very end, when the bloody man reveals himself. And I thought that was like the pinnacle, like right there. I'm like, I am so glad I waited for this moment where Kim shows her true self. Well, possessed Kim shows her true self, and then all hell just broke loose. And I love the little fight scene between the two Kims. That must have been a blast to have shot.
Yeah, I'm glad you like those. It's got a long runtime. That's been kind of a criticism I've seen, but like, I don't care. Like I edited the movie I wanted to make, and I feel like, if I took anything out, I feel like it would take away instead of adding. But yeah, there is some gore in it, not much. It's not like a violent, bloody slasher movie or anything. But we wanted this to be more of a, I don't want to say kid movie, but just kind of
like a PG-13ish type thing. That's what I felt.
Like a lighthearted 80s family scary movie,
Yeah, something we grew up with back in the day. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. But we still had an amazing special effects person, Lisa Duvall, and I don't know. I love horror, and I love gore and blood and guts and stuff. So we got to have a little bit of that in there. And you have to make the bloody man scary when he first, pops up. So
yeah, like and people were criticizing, like you said, about the long runtime. I felt it was paced perfectly, quite frankly. It just it kept wanting me. It just kept wanting me to watch, get more into it as the film went on, because I was just anticipating what was going to happen next. So I felt like the runtime was perfect.
Cool. It was a long script, and it was a long, like the original cut was like before I edited it down to what it was, a little over 2 hours. Like the original cut was over 2.5 hours, maybe. It was that was yeah, that was pretty bad. But yeah, I think I, I've gotten criticized for making movies that were too short. So like everybody
You
has
can't win.
their own opinion, and if that's the critique, it's kind of a cheap critique. I think it's like a lot of people kind of regurgitate the criticisms that they hear other people that do reviews do, and they're like, oh, I would like to see this condensed down to a 90-minute blah, blah, blah. Like like we're used to like movies that are like 2.5, 3 hours now. I'm not a Marvel movie maker, but but still, this our goal was to take the audience into the 80s, not like, hey, this is a movie about the 80s. It's like this could have existed. We wanted to like put your mind like back in the 80s, like, and feel like you're back there watching something on TV late at night, or something that you rented from the video store. And I think that it does that. And I think having it be 2 hours, that's good. At least for 2 hours, you feel like that you're back there.
That's how I felt. And even my daughter saw it with me, and she loved the whole 80s vibe to it, because I've told her so much about what I grew up with in the 80s, and she's like, I wish we had a time machine and can go back to the 80s. So I'm like, well, this is the closest you can get now watching this movie. So
that's awesome.
So she actually enjoyed it as well.
I think back when we were young, I think like the 60s were cool. Is that kind of your experience too? Like I remember everybody liked like that sort of music. Like Hendrix was a big thing with my friends, and
Led Zeppelin,
and bell bottoms, all that stuff. So I think that or that was more 70s, but I think that that now our kids are like they like the 80s, I guess, because I guess our parents grew up in the 60s, so we grew up in the 80s. But I think that our kids think that the 80s are cooler and like it more than we thought the 60s were cool and liked it, just because the 80s were cooler and better.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like I said, like if I can get a time machine, I would go back to the 80s and bring my kids just so they can see what I experienced back in the day. And I'm like, this is the closest you're going to get. This is an amazing movie, hands down.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that this came out, and I cannot wait I hope people will get to resonate the same way we did when it comes out on July 12th on digital. And
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm hoping. So what's next for you that you can talk about? Or is there anything that you're working on?
We just had our fourth child, so
congratulations.
Thanks. We have 4 under 4, so it's pretty insane.
I got 4 myself.
Oh, hey, congrats! And you feel the pain then?
Yeah, and they're all of them are double digits now. So, so just imagine that.
A different kind of pain.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, so that takes up a lot of time, and with work and kids, there's not a lot of time to do and my work is and I do like commercials and videos and stuff for social media for companies and stuff, but so to be able to do like a passion project or a film is kind of difficult. I mean, I have 100 things on my wish list that I could do. I want to do sequels to all the movies that I've done, or I've got a ton of other ideas or ideas for YouTube videos, but right now I'm just taking a little bit of a breath now that finally this is coming out next week on digital. I'm just going to kind of like take a breath, collect myself, and then we'll see where I go.
Yep. I hope people do get to see this, and I hope this movie especially gets a sequel, because this will be one of the ultimate highs for for anyone who, and I would say set even just do the sequel set in the 90s. Even just if you want to make it more interesting, set the sequel to the 90s. That would like people go crazy.
Well, I mean, by the time it takes so long to make films. Yeah, by the time that it would come out, it would like in real time probably be a decade later. Yeah, the cast, like the kids are grown up, big time. Like Davey, the Sam, the main kid, he's like 3 times as tall, deep voice, mustache, long hair, and so like even when even when I was editing, it had just been a few months since we wrapped up filming, and I needed him to come in and like do some ADR, and like his voice was already like changing. I was like, oh no. But it
happens. Yep.
But yeah, a sequel in the 90s. Hey, I would love to do it.
That's awesome. So everyone got to check out The Bloody Man. It's coming out July 12th on digital, and then there'll be physical releases later on. And man, you guys got to see this if you want to trip back to the 80s. You want like the ultimate homage to the 80s, in my opinion. This is one of the movies to check out. And Daniel, man, thank you again so much for taking the time to talk about it. And I hope this is a hit. Yeah, and I hope this is a hit.
I hope so too.
So thank you again.
If you're watching this, go rent it, or however it is that you're.
Yes, get it. As soon as it hits digital, rent the movie, do what you gotta do, or buy it straight up from digital, whatever you gotta do. Check out this movie. It's definitely worth watching. So once again, Daniel, thank you so much, and I hope you stay safe and take care.
You too. Thank you so much.